I've got the wing together almost, so I have to put one more slat on the front, but I have to clean it up. For some reason Hasegawa have moulded it. The ejection pins push against the surface of the slat, so you got shallow ejection pin marks, 3 to clean up, and you need to, well, you don't have to, but you cut out the grey styrene light section and put in the clear part. So I just used a razor saw for that. I do have a razor saw on a proper handle, but a lot of the time I just use a blade in my hand. I find it easier. Yeah, so that's a single molded piece, whereas the other ones, 1, 2, 3 each side, were 2 parts. They needed a bit of clean up, like I said, for the seam lines, and this joint here, when they're angled down, they won't fit well, so I had to sand some off this piece to get it to sit in. So once I get that on, that will almost be the completion of the wing. I still have to put on the photo etch part, but I need to sand that down because there's a piece, so there's one piece that goes on there, and the mating piece will go on the inside of the resin section there. And see, I'm gluing the fuselage together. While that dries, I'll probably start looking at, oh, a hole in the back, preparing, cutting and putting the wheels together, and the ejection seat, which will have photo etch parts to go on to that. Personally, well, this is what the kit came with, but I prefer the quick boost ones that have everything molded into it, but hey ho, this is what I got. Yeah, and I'm going to start preparing the landing gear legs, so there'll be some parts trimmed off for photo etch to go onto as well on them. And we'll start looking at what's after that. So all the there's a lot of the engine's got to go in, sensors, and some photo etch on the fuselage, and yeah, pretty much the gear doors and that, prepare them, the pylons, and yeah, it's pretty much like I said, there's not a lot to the kit. It's pretty on the simplistic side, even though it's still a good kit. So seeing the wing as a sit-in, I'll paint it off the fuselage. In this instance, it'll be probably easier to do all the paint work, and that sits on where there's not a glued join, so I don't need to worry about making a big bloody mess like I'm prone to do sometimes when I'm painted something and I come in to glue it, and that'll be the time when I make a mistake. You could probably just sand that down until they disappear, but I'm just using some CA glue. I don't want to take too much plastic off. Alright, let's quickly want to have a bit of a whinge about why I don't like, I mentioned I like quick boost seats. Everything's moulded in, the harness and everything, you just paint it. Whereas the Eduard brass and seat, you got resin, and you've got painted photo etch that goes on top of that. So you have to paint the resin first, then glue the parts onto the seat. Now, in case here, we got a glare there. You got, this is a photo etch piece going over the cushion, backrest cushion. So it's got to fold over to start with, which is bloody hard because it's so curved, and I think it's almost impossible to get that bend correct. And when you bend it, the paint peels off. So I was going to paint it anyway because it's easier to put it on now and then paint that, but that's just what I mean about the combination of the resin and painted photo etch. Some might like it, but I don't. But I'm not a huge fan of photo etch anyway. Like gurus, probably it's no troubles for them, but I have difficulties. Also, so now I'm starting to clean up the joins of the fuselage halves, seam joins. So I've sanded that back. I'm using CA glue for any spots I need to tidy up. I've been using this one a lot lately. It's VMS. It's Flexi CA glue. I find it dries pretty quick, and it's pretty good to work with. Yeah, it's just same with all CA glues. Once you open that bottle, they start to go off. If you keep them in the fridge in between use, it increases the lifespan. But this one seems to have kept a good life span to it, as in its effectiveness. It doesn't, I find the other brand I use, I can't think of it right now, I haven't got it here, it's in the fridge, but it's it goes off quicker, and then once it starts going off, it takes longer to dry, whereas this one seems to still be drying pretty quickly. So I've managed to get that part on, kind of. What I did was I got a lighter, and I just annealed the brass, and that peeled the paint off, as I'm painting it anyway. There was another piece that went in behind that goes up. Again, I couldn't get a good fit on it. You got to add a bit of wire on the seat as well, which they show. There you got 0.4mm thickness, and there was another tiny little piece of photo etch that went on the top of the seat there. I used, when I'm dealing with those tiny bits, I use this wax pencil. You just keep it sharp. I just use a blade to sharpen it, and it because you keep using it, the tack goes off it, so you got to keep sharpening and keep the tack on it. It's good for tiny pieces. So that's ready to paint, and then the struggle begins again with the coloured photo etch going on. So that's your resin wheel, and that's the kit wheel. So you can see actually a smaller diameter, so I hope Eduard got it right. There's the front wheel, you can see there's quite a bit of difference there, and detail wise there's not really much in it. In the hub, the rear is, you got the brake in the rear of the hub, so that's better than the kit part, but the side that you see easily is pretty much the same, but the tyres are improved with the grooves, even though there is a bit of a groove in the kit one. So I've cleaned up, I'm just taking my time here doing the front half first. So I've cleaned up, I've sanded it back. Hasegawa plastic, if you've never built one before, it's a harder type plastic, whereas traditionally Airfix is soft. Hasegawa's towards the other end of the scale is pretty hard. So this time around, all this sanding, I just used bits of, I cut up small sandpaper and I just did circular motion to cover the area. I have to re-scribe, obviously, a whole heap of detail there. But before I do that, I'll give it a shot of primer to make sure that the seam joint is good, that I don't have to fill any more gaps. Same as here on the nose. And also, when you put the fuselage halves together, you're creating another, you can see that join where the intake scoop joins the two halves. There's another seam join there that you need to take care of, because you can see in the nose, and you will see it. Again, however you can get at that is the way to go. I just use, again, folded up the sandpaper and just worked a circular motion, and then come in with finer grit sponge, just pinch it with your tweezers, and again just work it out. So obviously I got a paint in there again, which will be awkward to get at due to the angle, but that's the nature of the aircraft, isn't it? Don't be too, you can see I've got a big seam there, but that's all going to be covered up with this part, so don't worry too much about that as long as it's level. That bit you'll see though, the backing, so I've got to use a finer grit on there and clean that up a bit. It's a bit scratchy. This piece actually sits on top of the front windscreen section, so you can see it overlaps or overhangs. They curl up and rest on the windscreen clear piece, so I'm not putting that in yet. But yeah, so I'm ready to give that a shot of primer, and then I'll re-scribe, and on the underside we'll have so we got 46 is going in front of the gear, nose gear bay, and 48 is behind it. I remove, there was a piece there as well of kit plastic that came off, and we're putting in 42 and 43, so it should be a tiny, tiny's the word, so a tiny little circular piece, flat piece there, and next to it the antenna, which is also tiny, and I will not be putting the antenna piece on because I can guarantee you that won't be there in an hour's time handling it. Once I'm happy with all the front end, then I'll work to the back. Most people probably do the whole thing in one go, but I get bored doing one thing. I need to chop and change things around. I was starting to prepare the rockets. I cut off the pylon, and then I realised I hadn't drilled out the holes on the fuselage for the pylons, which was back here, and this step I overlooked. Wouldn't be the first time. So a solution or a fix for this, if you do forget in this instance where the holes were missed, especially when your wings, I've done heaps of wings, you get a really bright torch, go into a dark room, come in from the opposite side, it won't work because I've got light in here. But if you're in a dark room and when you turn the torch on, looking through, you'll see the thin plastic, and you just mark in the holes where they will be drilled. It works good on wings too because they're thinner. I wasn't sure it would work for this, but it did. So yeah, that will solve that problem. Now just got to check the alignment of the which there's 4 holes I found. I've got to find which one is the one I need. I was cleaning up the joins, just about finished on the underside, and you can see I've added the photo etch where required. There's supposed to be some you're supposed to cut away this plastic in here and put in these tiny, they fold over, supposed to go up there. I'm not doing that. It looks too painful and you're not going to see it. Where was it? Oh yeah, here. It's such a tiny area, but yeah, you won't see it. Also, so depending on which scheme you're doing, you have to remove this pod off the tail. So if you're doing A, B, C and E, that has to come off. So that's, you got A, B, C and E. So they don't have it. The only one that does have it is D scheme, which is what's this one? The VF211 Fighting Checkmates. I know I'm not doing that one, but I'm still undecided as to which scheme I'm doing. I'm leaning towards this one. I like this one, but everyone does that. Everyone overseas seems to do that one, so I'm going to do something different. I also like this one, but I think this one's a CAG. Yeah, the CAG bird, so it's a bit more cleaner, I guess, and more it's not, it is colourful, but it's not necessarily any more colourful than the others. So I do like this one, but what's putting me off is the size of the size of that bloody tail decal. But anyway, I'm not up to that yet, but I will take this off because it'll be one of those schemes. I still need to, I still have to clean up the tail spine here and up the back of the tail. I'm just starting to work on that now. And then here. So all my re-scribing this time using the Dymo tape. It's nice and thick, and it's a nice gradual curve, so it conforms well in the P cutter. And I've finished just about in the wing. I've put the photo etch piece on the wing. Now it's totally not to size again. It's overlaps, but I'm going to leave it because it's meant to be that shape. And when it sits in position, it'll be around that area, so you'll see that curve and you're not really going to see up in behind it. The clear parts on the kit are pretty good, but I'm still going to dip them. I'll use this. That's Pledge floor care finish, so it's like a wax. You see it's starting to, I've had it, oh, I don't know, probably 8-10 years maybe, so it's got a bit of a yellow tint, and that's not from sitting it in sunlight, that's just being in a room where light gets it but not sunlight. Pour it into a glass. You can see that's just a shot glass, and I just use tweezers to hold it, dip it. Just make sure it covers everywhere. So even, I want it on me. Just, that's so bright, I have to use my hand. Straight away, even though it's wet, you can just tell the difference. So you've got excess on it, that's why I have all this paper towel. Apologies if that's glaring up, but and just get the excess off. Now I'm gonna sit. You'll see. I don't know if you can see the difference. I can straight away. The one I dipped is clearer than the kit one, the other one. And then I take this, set it well away from where I'm working so there's no dust gets on it. I'll leave it sit at least a day to dry off properly before you mask it up. I'll come back, I'll get rid of this, it's a bit glary. Alright, so I've put those clear parts aside to dry, like I said, well away from where I'm working. Yeah, 24 hours. I usually give them at least, just to make sure it sets properly. If you get some of your limited run kits that have really questionable clear parts, you can dip them several times, but just wait till it dries, come back, dip it again, and I'll keep increasing the clarity of it. So the main canopy, I need to add a whole heap of photo etch, so that's a bit of a mini model going on there. And I still have to add that piece on top that sits on the front windscreen section, so that'll have to be done as well. If you're having, so I want to have the canopy the canopy open, you need to, on the model, it's got a slot to be shut, so you need to take out some plastic so you can have it raised open. So I need to do that as well, otherwise the construction of the model is pretty much done with all the kit parts and the adding the photo etch and that. I still have to do the landing gear. I need to clean these up, these stabilizing fins on the bottom of the fuselage. They're not that great a fit, they got a gap, so I'm going to have to putty them, unfortunately. These scoops at the back also didn't, they had tabs, locating pins, you can see there, that's showing the holes, but again, nowhere, well, that part I missed that did say drill, but there's nowhere mentioning that you drill them out. And so I shone the torch again, and I wasn't really convinced of where there were two clear spots, but all I did was cut the pins off and just line them up by eye and glued them on, but they didn't fit great either. I glued the front section let it set, and then I come back and put pegs to pinch the back to get it to conform to the fuselage. Yeah, it's not the best Hasegawa kit I've ever built, but I've never built the Crusader before. But yeah, some things are a bit like that. Didn't really expect that to be like that. Then I need to, yeah, so other bits of more the fiddly bits, I need to get back to that chair seat. So I've been holding off because of the photo co-etch. It was painful. I've got the rockets glued. I need to give them a shot of primer and then check the seam joins. This is another thing with the kit I wasn't impressed with, was the warheads of the rockets. They should be round, but they're moulded oblong. Some of them are round, some of them are oblong, and they had a huge, the moulds weren't aligned properly, so misalignment. So still a couple of areas when I prime it, I'll need to check. I might have to clean them up again. That was very disappointing. But I suppose I should be grateful that they added weapons at all. Hasegawa don't usually give you weapons. And once, oh, that was the other thing that was annoying. The main gear door, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ejection pin marks in it. You might get away, or yes, you won't see it if it was displayed sitting on the, if I can get that in there. But anyway, you know, when it's sitting there like that, you won't see it. If you pick it up and look, you'll see them. So I'm cleaning them up with CA glue because I want to enter this in a competition, so I need to make sure I take care of all the little things in case it gets noticed and you get pinged on it. Yeah, so, and then it's to the paint. This is obviously the mistake when the original instructions, they didn't put in the white control surfaces, whereas this is a correction book. So after another day's thought, I'm starting to lean towards I might do this one. So it's Commander Dick Bellinger. He was shot down by MiG-17 1966 while providing fighter cover for an Alpha strike against Hanoi. Having safely ejected and subsequently rescued unharmed, Commander Bellinger would even the score by shooting down the first MiG-21 of the Vietnam War, October 9th, 1966. Flight leader of 4 VF-162 Crusaders. They were assigned to protect A4s. Commander Bellinger and his F-8s were vectored towards incoming MiGs as engagement ensued. One of the MiGs dove towards the ground. Commander Bellinger followed and fired 2 AIM-9Ds, one of which struck the MiG-21, and he was awarded the Silver Star. So it's got a bit of a history with it. So I've narrowed it. It'll be either that one or this one, the CAG bird, but I think I might probably end up doing this one. But again, tomorrow I'll probably tell you something different. I like this one because it's got a red nose. It's different. But anyway, we'll see. Yeah, so getting close to primer stage.